King Jesus, King Jesus. Okay, hey, I wanted to talk about a taboo subject in America. That is the lynching of black people in the United States. It is a practice of extrajudicial mob of killing black men that goes all the way back to the emancipation of black people from slavery in the United States. It's largely been replaced by the extrajudicial killings by the police in the United States. But in the South, it is still practiced from time to time. And this occurs publicly, with whole families of white people gathered around to watch the extrajudicial hanging. Now, it's a social phenomenon of white people in the South of the United States. And it has this psychosocial component to it, where the penises of black men are the focus for the lynchings. In fact, during the 20th century, the white people actually cut off the genitalia of black men and saved them as talismans or trophies that they traded amongst each other. They actually cut the penises from the black men and kept them as souvenirs. And even whole families gathered to watch these lynchings. Sometimes they were burnings, and this kind of savagery was quite a social phenomenon in the South during the heyday of the Ku Klux Klan. As I said, the Ku Klux Klan has insinuated themselves into the police forces of the South and North in America now, so that these lynchings have been largely replaced by extrajudicial police shootings of black men. So with that background history, we bring up the case of a North Carolina teenager who was hanged to death by lynching in North Carolina in a place called Crackertown. It says here in the Huffington Post, it says that Lennon Lacy's family says that his hanging death was a lynching. It says the family of North Carolina high school student Lennon Lacy, whose death this summer was ruled a suicide by the state medical examiner, is now saying they believe the 17-year-old was murdered. So you see that the whole judicial system in America is set up to protect the criminality of this savagery of white people murdering black people in the South. Not only by lynching, you understand, but also by police extrajudicial killings. It says Lennon Lacy's body was found hanging from a wooden swing set in a mobile home park near his home in August. So this swing set is so big that it had to take a group of men to hoist his body up to be hanged. But the state chief medical examiner, Dr. Deborah Radish, conducted an autopsy and declared that his death was a suicide based on information she was given by law enforcement and a local medical examiner. However, Lacy's family is now expressing concern that their teenager did not take his own life. So you see that despite the whole history, that this town is notorious for its history of lynchings, that the whole system is still set up to protect people that commit these types of heinous killings of black boys. Now, there is an article in globalgrind.com that says there are 7 things you should know about the 17-year-old Lennon Lacy's mysterious hanging death. It says on August 29th, a 17-year-old high school football player was found hanging from a wooden swing set just hours before he was set to take on the West Columbus Vikings on his school's football field. It was a game that Bladenboro, North Carolina teenager had spent hours training for in the gym, at home, and in the school's stadium. The starting linebacker had big plans for his future in football, practicing and perfecting his skills in hopes of obtaining a college scholarship. His West Bladen Knights teammate Anthony White told The Guardian the teen was looking forward to doing good in the game. That's why the news of Lennon Lacy's death came as a shock. Local authorities arrived at his home just moments after Lacy's mother noticed he left his football gear at home, telling the family the teenager was found hanging from a swing set in a park visible to the trailer homes that surrounded it. An autopsy determined Lacy died from asphyxia due to hanging, suggesting suicide. The autopsy also described the injuries to Lacy's neck consistent with the cut noose sent to the medical examiner's offices with the body. No foul play, they said, was indicated. Lacy's family and friends and neighbors aren't so sure, but with their questions comes pushback. As the Reverend William Barber, head of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in North Carolina, put it in a recent memorial service for Lennon Lacy held at the family's church, the First Baptist in Bladenboro. Don't ask these parents to bury their 17-year-old son and then act as though everything is normal. Don't chastise them for asking the right questions. All they want is the truth. But Barbara also talked about the chilling thought that lingered otherwise unmentioned over the scores of black and white people attending the packed memorial. Quote, the image of a black boy hanging from a rope is in the souls of all of us, he told them. It is in the DNA of America. But the mysterious details surrounding Lacy's death don't do much to quell those thoughts. Authorities are mum on their details. But here are some facts to consider about Lacy's death brought forth by his family and friends. The lump on Lacy's head. Lacy's mother, Claudia, noticed scratches and abrasions on the teen's face when authorities led her to the black body bag holding her son. She also said there was a knot on Lacy's forehead that hadn't been there the day before. The undertaker, F.W. Newton Jr., also noticed Lacy's unusual face. Newton told The Guardian that when he received Lacy's body 2 days after he died, he was struck by the abrasions he saw across both shoulders and down the sides of both arms. He also noted facial indentations over both cheeks, the chin, and nose. Though police have told the Lacy family that ants were responsible for causing the marks, to Newton, the state of the body reminded him of corpses he had embalmed where the deceased had been killed in a barroom fight. The autopsy report says nothing about the abrasions or the lumps on Lacy's face. The shoes Lacy had on when authorities discovered his body were not his. The Lacy family lawyer, Alan Rogers, points out a curious detail in the teenager's shocking death. He wasn't wearing his own shoes when authorities discovered his body. The gray and neon green Jordans Lacy bought just a few days before he died were gone. Instead, the teenager was wearing a pair of size 10.5 white sneakers with the laces removed. Lacy wore a size 12. His family members did not recognize the sneakers as his own. So how does a 17-year-old who's up at 11 at night washing and getting his clothes ready for a football game, who has brand new pair of Jordans that he got for the school year, wake up the next morning and he's hanging from an apparatus with some strange person's shoes on, Rogers said. Those brand new Jordans were never located. Lacy had an older white girlfriend. Family members say Lacy was in a relationship with a 31-year-old white woman, Michelle Brimhall, months before his death. The age of consent in North Carolina is 16, but in a town where 86 black people were lynched between 1882 and 1968, the neighbors still have Confederate flags in their yard. The interracial relationship may have caused some tension. Everybody was going on with me because he was 17 and I'm 31, Brimhall told The Guardian. We told people we weren't seeing each other so they would stop giving us trouble. They did not stop seeing each other, however. Brimhall said she doesn't believe the teen killed himself because he loves his mother so much. She also said she doesn't know who killed her boyfriend, but I want to know who did it. I want them to suffer. Lacy's family, however, are asking authorities why they did not interview the woman's former husband and father of her children, who she left in February. While there is no evidence linking him to Lacy's death, the family would like authorities to turn over any leaf that may lead to justice for their son. Bladenboro is a racially charged town. In fact, it is called Crackertown. Here is the truth. The statistic listed above, marking the number of black bodies thrown from trees in Bladenboro, is an image that is hard to let go. And so is the racially charged climate of the rural town. In fact, Lacy's neighbors, a white couple living in a trailer home right behind the Lacy family home, were instructed by police to remove a Confederate flag and a sign that read "Niggers Keep Out" from their front yard. The Guardian asked the couple why they had put up the sign. Sykes said that it was his idea. There were some kids who ganged up on our kid, and I put some signs up. Asked whether he now regretted doing so, he replied, "Yeah, I regret it now." Carla Hudson said she had begged her husband to take the sign down. I told him he had to stop that. It wasn't how I saw things. There's not a racist bone in my body. The teenager had no history of mental illness. Just the day before Lacy's death, a funeral service was held for his great-uncle Johnny. The event no doubt upset the teenager, but family and friends described the teenager as a meticulous, friendly kid who made a point of always greeting people and asking them how they were doing. According to Rogers and Lacy's parents, the teenager did not have a history of mental illness or depression. His dedication to school, football, and his bright future have also led his family to believe the teenager didn't cut his own life short, as did the location of his death. The swing set from which he was hanged is one of 8 such sets standing in a line in the middle of a rectangle of 13 mobile homes. The spot is desolate and vulnerable, overlooked as it is by so many trailer homes, like a sport field surrounded by grandstands. If my brother wanted to take his own life, I can't understand why he would do it in such an exposed place. This feels more like he was put here as a public display, a taunting almost, Pierre Lacy said. Just a few days after Lacy was buried, his family found that someone desecrated his burial site, dumping the flowers 40 feet away beside the road and carving a hole into his burial plot. Family members have not yet found the perpetrator. District Attorney John David has yet to comment on the continuing investigation, but Lacy's family has come forward with a list of questions surrounding the investigation into their son's death, including why police haven't interviewed Lacy's wider group of friends. Lacy's father was the last to see the teenager when he came out of the bedroom around midnight to get a glass of water. The family also wants to know why forensic investigators did not take swabs from under Lacy's fingernails and DNA test them to see if he had been in physical contact with anybody else before he died. These questions and others have not yet been answered. Now, Lacy's white girlfriend has come forward and did an interview in the Mail Online of Britain. It says, exclusive white girlfriend 31 of lynched 17-year-old Lennon Lacy says she believed their relationship led to his murder and reveals she was warned not to date a black man in Crackertown. Lennon Lacy, 17, was found hanged from a swing set in Bladenboro, North Carolina, known as Crackertown, and initially believed to have committed suicide, but his family are convinced he was actually murdered, and the FBI is now investigating a lynching. Now his white girlfriend, 14 years his senior, has broken her silence to speak about their relationship in a town she says was racist. Michelle Brimhall, 31, has left North Carolina for Illinois, saying she does not feel safe in the town. Neighbors had told me they were against interracial relations and it was not right me being with a black guy, she says. His family did not approve of their relationship, but she denies claims she is a drug addict or that she was having his child. The older white girlfriend of hanged black teenager believes he may have been murdered by racists because of their interracial affair. She said, now, again, I want you to focus on that there's a concern among white people about black men's penises and where they put it. It says Lennon Lacy, 17, was found hanging from a swing set in the predominantly white town of Bladenboro, North Carolina, in August of this year. His death was initially determined by police to be suicide, but is now being investigated by the FBI as a possible lynching. Today, the teenager's girlfriend, a 32-year-old mother of 3, told Daily Mail that she was convinced that he was murdered. Michelle Brimhall revealed how she had been targeted by racists during their relationship and has now fled the town for her own safety. Lacy's death has become the focus of campaigners in the wake of the deaths at the hands of the police of a series of black men and boys and growing concern over police relations with African Americans across the U.S. Brimhall is now decided to break her silence over the death to back his family's belief that he did not commit suicide. Speaking exclusively to Daily Mail, she said, I believe Lennon was murdered. The police ruled his death was suicide, but Lennon would never harm himself. He got too much love for life. Her intervention comes in the wake of the NAACP and other organizations highlighting the death and its investigation, and after the teenager's grave was desecrated. Until now, she has not detailed her relationship with the dead teenager. But speaking in the town where she has moved to get away from Bladenboro, Brimhall spoke of how they had planned a future together despite the age gap and how he had a life in front of him which showed he would not commit suicide. They became a couple after she moved to the small town following a breakdown of her marriage earlier this year. She had previously lived in nearby Fayetteville with her now estranged husband, who is from North Carolina and longed to return to the good weather of the South. Brimhall said, in February, I left my husband Michael and left Illinois and went to North Carolina. Although 15 years older than Lennon, the short but sparky mother of 3 said she hit it off with the teenager after they were introduced through friends. They became neighbors living across the road from each other in a public housing complex. She said, I found everything about Lennon attractive. He was tall and strong, and he acted much older than he was. He had a very good soul. We talked about everything. He talked about school, his mom, his dad, my kids, everything going on in life. We was together every day until I started college and he went back to school. A gifted athlete, Lennon hoped for a career as a professional American football player, and despite the gaping age difference, the pair made plans for a future together. Ms. Brimhall said, "I wanted Lennon to fulfill his dreams, go to the NFL and play for the Washington Redskins. We had made plans to move to Charlotte after he finished high school, where he could go to school until he could get into the NFL. My kids loved Lennon." However, she became alarmed at racist remarks about her relationship with Lennon by some white people in Bladenboro, also known as Crackertown, particularly two neighbors who had put up a sign around their trailer saying "niggas keep out" and flew a Confederate flag. Brimhall said neighbors had told me they were against interracial relationships and it was not right, me being with a black guy. We tried to keep our relationship a secret. We would walk to the store together, but we never held hands or kissed or any of that stuff in public. There's no secret to anyone in the town whose population is 80% white and 20% black that the issue of race runs through it. The black minority have been known to call it Crackertown for the tension which is always present. The Ku Klux Klan held marches in the town, said Brimhall. The Ku Klux Klan have a meeting house in Bladenboro, a white building with boarded up windows. With that in mind, only a handful of people knew about the couple. She acknowledges that there were also tensions with Lennon's family. The teenager's parents did not approve of their relationship and twice confronted Brimhall about it. The relationship cooled after Lennon returned to high school and Ms. Brimhall started college at the end of August. She said, "With me at college, the kids and his school, we did not have very much time together. Lennon wouldn't hurt nobody. He didn't do drugs. He didn't mess around with any gangs. He went to school and played football. That was all he did." The initial verdict from the local coroner following the police investigation was that there was no foul play and the death was declared a suicide by North Carolina's chief medical examiner, Dr. Deborah Radish. But it quickly became clear that the circumstances of his death were at the very least confused. Lennon did. So folks, you see that in America, there's an over-concern with where black men put their penises, and that white men seem to be obsessed with black men's penises. That is really a psychosocial problem and shows a real pathology among white men in America. They have a real pathological problem. You notice that most of them are homosexual, especially the Jews, who from birth put their mouths on infants' penises as a rite of passage into life. So that is the circumstance we find with these continued lynchings in America. And it needs